Let's try and move a little bit away from using only the console log, but also actually being able to print information to our page over here. In our web store, we need to do a little bit more for this to work. We need to tell the JavaScript to print it to some specific place. We can tell to print it to some specific place, and that's what we're going to do in this example. So we're going to create an HTML element with an ID assigned to it, and we're just going to call this hitMe in this case. So as you can see here, we just created a div with an ID of hitMe, and right now it's blank. So if you go check your page, there's nothing here. Next part we want to do is we just quickly want to show you how we can use this this way of writing to a specific element. And what we need to do is we need to use something called document. And the document is the entirety of your page. So all what we see here, or if we look at the code, from way up here to way down here. This is what we call the HTML document, or sometimes referred to as the DOM or the DOM. So document object model, and this is what we're going to be manipulating with JavaScript, changing content, changing colors, changing whatever you really want, doing things and so on. That's the first part. We're making the JavaScript look to the document to do things, and then we want to use the getElementById, which is here, which is looking for an ID specifically, which is what we just created here. So the ID is looking for something with an ID. And then we're going to use the name hitMe, really bad name, but hitMe, like this. That tells the system, look for this ID with this name, and then we're going to use something called innerHTML. This is a way of writing information that we use in here. There's also something called text. If you just see text, this will only write text, characters, and so on and so on. So if you write HTML tags, it's not gonna work. It's writing the text. Whereas if we write this HTML, inner HTML, we can write breakpoints or H2, H3, and so on and so on. But for now, we just want to write out the print. Yes, that's the print. This is not gonna work. So it says up here, is not defined, it's null. It doesn't understand this and can't print it out. The reason for this is because of the way we structured our code. If you go to our index, we can see this is what we have. We have header first and then body afterwards, and in the head we have title, we have links to the style sheet, we have link to JavaScript, and this is kind of the reason why it doesn't work, because this is being printed before this. So what does that actually mean? This is being loaded, so actually what is here is actually what's in this one, so it's declaring a variable called print. It's looking for an ID called hitMe, but that doesn't exist yet. So this is trying to locate something that's called a hitMe ID, which is being printed after this is being run through. So we need to tell the system to actually let the HTML go through or being printed out or written out, and then you're going to look for the ID here. And we can do this by adding a defer. That means wait for the HTML to finish before doing all the JavaScript things. Or we could have dragged this, copied it, and put it down here at just before the body ended and so on. It's kind of the two ways we can. But at times we also want the JavaScript to run before we want to run our HTML. But in our case, we just put the defer so it knows what to do. Let's click save, go to our browser, and now it should say 30. This is a way of just switching away from console log and actually printing things, but the console log has its pros, but it's not meant to be something you would build a system to, because people are not going to go into console log and see what's the price of a product, of course. So the console log is for testing for us as developers, where we can test the value of if we get the correct array out, the item from the array, or if we just want to locate an error because something doesn't work. So you remember from Ionic, it says if you make an error, it says there's an error somewhere with a lot of text. But the console log, if you open that one as well, it prints out a little bit more specific. That's kind of a way to do this, but that's for a later point. But that's kind of one for now, for the document and the inner HTML. And the next one, we're going to create a function where we're using these together with each other and printing out things.